Welcome to the Ledger and the Leader here at BBH CSD. I'm Superintendent Jeff Harrison.
And I'm Treasurer Craig Yaniglos. This is where transparency meets teamwork.
We're giving you a front row seat to the decisions, dollars, and directions that help shape your school district.
No fluff, just real conversations straight from your district leadership.
All right, well, here we are again, Craig, episode 4. So we're just one step further than before. We don't have any negative comments. I do have some positive comments that maybe later in the episode, don't let me forget, but I have a little bit of feedback from a listener. And the listener that I'm going to share the feedback from isn't even a community member of BBH CSD. So I guess our reach is going outside of our communities, which is good. And I'll speak a little bit more to that later on. But today's episode, we're going to kind of recap what's been going on since our last podcast. We've had a lot of exciting things in the district. We've had the state of the schools. We've had a new finance committee. I'll leave it at that. That has formed and has a lot of energy, which I think is super exciting when we have community members who are willing to pour into our district in other ways. And so I'm excited for you to tell us more about that. And then we're going to have a guest again. Dr. Martin was such a hit that we're going to bring in the leader of C.A.P.A. And I'm just going to leave it hanging out there as a cliffhanger. If you don't know what C.A.P.A is and you've been under a rock for the past 20 years, you're going to learn all about C.A.P.A and the leadership behind it and the wonderful things that happen here in BBH CSD for our students through C.A.P.A. So with that, Craig, how about you kind of tell us about a little meeting you had last week?
Yeah, it's been an exciting time for me in the finance office. As we talked about, I think a little bit, I don't know what, I'm losing track of these episodes, but we talked about our strategic plan and how that plan really wanted to give an opportunity for our community to be engaged in finance. So we came up with, as a part of one of our action steps, was to create some sort of committee. We are now calling it the Community Finance Alliance. And it's a great group of people. We did a call out in one of your newsletters to get people who are interested and maybe have something to offer. We got a very diverse group of people that were able to join us, and we have staff members as well. So we have our union representatives from our support staff as well as our teaching union. We've got administrators on, which is me, you, and Rachel. And then we also have these community members. And so we had our first meeting last week at the end of October. So it went really well. We have an incredibly talented group of people that have a ton more energy than I was expecting. I think you would agree. But we've got accountants, we've got finance people, we have lawyers that are ready to hit the ground running and to help us throughout some of these challenges that face our district. And you will notice, by the way, that I separated finance and accounting.
You separated finance and accounting?
Two separate different groups of people.
Oh, okay.
Because as someone who considers myself more of a finance person,
okay,
I learned very early on in college that I never wanted to be an accountant.
Okay.
They are a very different skill set of people. I don't know if you know that. I mean, I know your son's in finance now, but those are different groups of people.
Yes.
And we actually saw that play out of accountants and finance people. So it's actually good to have both because they are very different skill sets. But again, I realized very early on in my educational career in college that I did not want to be an actual accountant.
Yes. Well, Pam has an accounting degree. And did not go on to be an accountant, but worked in the finance realm and banking and such before starting our own business. So, yeah, I'm familiar with those accountants and the detail-oriented nature that they have.
Yeah.
I will tell you, being in that meeting, I was excited about the passion that was in the room. Mm-hmm. There was the nice part about it was a lot of times when we do committees as a school district or we ask for help, a lot of times we get the same faces and the same individuals show up who are very committed to our district and do good work. This was refreshing because there was a new set of people that I have not had the opportunity to interact with.
Same.
And like you said, they had a very diverse background. And I think it's going to help accomplish some of the goals. But I guess maybe let's talk a little bit more about that. It was part of the strategic plan. We want to be transparent. We want to be available to our community. We want to communicate. But what are the real goals of the Community Finance Alliance?
Well, so we really want to make sure that it is set up as an advisory committee, right?
So they're not making decisions?
They're not making decisions,
okay,
but they're giving us a lot of valuable input so that we can kind of help, make sure that our school district matches our community and what their needs are. So, we kind of started this meeting off. Like I think everything starts off with fluff, right? Like our first episode. It was kind of like the introduce yourself, and then it came down to why did you want to be on the committee? So we got a lot of different feedback. I mean, a lot of different reasons why people wanted to be on the committee, but it was a lot of excitement and people wanting to really contribute. And one of the things they really said that resonated was that they've wanted to contribute, but having an evening meeting and being able to dedicate their talents to the district was really refreshing, and that they wanted to do this.
It is refreshing. And, we have done a lot of things in the evenings as Brecksville Broadview Heights, but also other school districts I've worked in. But unfortunately, in the evenings, a lot of people are busy. Their kids are taking them in a million different ways. So a lot of times we'd offer things in the evening and we wouldn't get the participation, and then hence kind of moved away from it. Then we started doing the coffee chats last year, and some of the people were upset because they couldn't come because it was during the day and they were working full time. So it was refreshing to hear again that we have a desire, an appetite in our community to have a few more evening type of activities like this, because by all means, if they're going to show, I'll be there. And I know you will be as well. So it was kind of refreshing to hear that from them. And it was a nice turnout.
Yeah, no, it was. We had 100% attendance, so I was very excited for all the people who filled out the Google form, which again was disseminated through your newsletter, and we kind of advertised it a little bit on, I think, maybe even Facebook. So we got a good group of people to do this. We did the introductions, and then we also really did an assessment. Like, what do you think we do good, and what do you think we could improve on in terms of our finances? So we took some of that feedback, and then what really kind of stood out was we have two really good projects, and one of them is going to be an in-depth look, which we've been doing internally, but it'll be great to get some of this feedback on our pay-to-participate structure. The why behind it, how much does it generate, academic pay-to-participate versus athletic pay-to-participate. So we have some really a good group of people who are interested in that topic specifically. And then the other outcome of this Community Finance Alliance really was what is called an SGO. And one of our neighboring schools is kind of the ones who kind of pioneered this, but it is a school granting organization or scholarship granting organization. And what they can do is basically provide tax incentives for people to then take this money in. People get the full benefit, and there'll be more to come on this, of course, but they get the full tax benefit of this, and we can then use that money to help defer the costs, for instance, of maybe our all-day kindergarten tuition, or maybe there's an application for keeping our pay-to-participate fees down in certain circumstances. So they were very passionate about those two topics, and now we've kind of created these subcommittees that are going to start doing some really, really, really important work that could benefit a lot of families in our district in various ways. So we're excited to get that work going. The big group will probably only meet about 4 times a year, but it's nice to know we have these like subgroups, I think, that are going to be very passionate about some of these topics.
Yeah, and I think the SGO initiative is it's unique, it's innovative. There's not many school districts that are doing it. It's an opportunity for us to show our community that we're searching for alternatives to just asking for more money or increasing the fees. I think also we probably shocked the room when you and I both openly said, very loudly said, that we hate pay to participate. Like we're not, we don't issue pay to participate because we like it. It's actually quite burdensome, and it's a process that gives a lot of people grief, and we know this. However, I know from listening to you and your presentations, pay to participate in our district brings in roughly $250,000.
Probably a little bit more, but yeah.
So if we're going to eliminate pay to participate, I'm not saying we are. I want to be clear. We're going to investigate. We're going to educate. We're going to talk about why we collect it. And but if we were to just wipe it off the books, we have to come up with $250,000 or more. And that then goes to that resource allocation that I've talked about before. We're on a fixed income as a school district, so we have to, if we're going to, fund one area, that may mean not funding another area. So those are the tough decisions we have to do as administrators and those tasked with helping lead the district. But this community group will be a great vehicle to get that information out, because I think there isn't a week that goes by that people don't ask me, how much does pay to participate and what does it pay for? And I've probably repeated it over and over and over again, but it still comes up. So obviously we're not painting a clear enough picture for our community to understand that, or it's just simply that they have such a disdain for it that they just want to see it gone.
Well, and it's also that, I explain it every year when we go through the calculations that we've done, and it's at a board meeting. So again, we need other avenues to get that information out. Since I've been here for the 6 years I've been here, and the first couple years we kind of just did the rolling approach because we were dealing with COVID. But we've really dug into it, and at least for what we're doing now, I think we're administering it with more integrity, with more data behind it. The question is really, is that the best method or best way? When I got here, we employed one full-time person to just track that particular program, basically. And we don't do that anymore. We've created a lot of efficiencies to bring the cost of administering it down, but we didn't necessarily change the way it's administered either. And maybe we won't, I don't know, but we've got to look at that. And I'm glad to know that we've got some people that are going to take a deep dive into that with me and with Rachel, who works on that specific program for us a lot in the calculations.
It's a fresh set of eyes. They might pick up on something that we just take for granted. So that's good.
Absolutely.
That's good. So how about the legislation update? I mean, it seems like every episode, we didn't start this podcast only talking about school finance.
Correct.
Even though Craig may have liked that. But the point being is the time and place that we're in right now, it's the center of what we do every day.
Mm-hmm.
You and I both, as treasurer, superintendent, board of education, we are watching the actions of our legislators in Columbus every day, because there are bill after bill being introduced and debated, and we have to stay on top of it. So before we get a little bit further into getting to our guests today, maybe any updates you have for us on the legislative front?
Well, I'm getting ready to send a letter to some of our senators, not just the ones that represent us, but also some key senators that are representing and starting to work on, these bills that have come over from the House. So I think we touched on some of those bills before they were officially voted on. So specifically like House Bill 1.
That was a spoiler alert, because I know those representatives are listening to our podcast.
I hope so.
So now they know they're going to get a letter from you. So
they know.
Spoiler alert.
So specifically like House Bill 186, 129, House Bill 309, all of these are kind of progressing on, and they're headed towards the Senate. So we're going to focus our energies at this point on some of our Senate colleagues to hopefully let them understand where we are as a state of public education. And I think for me, at least in my colleagues, I'm assuming probably for you, we're exhausted from the amount of legislation that we are dealing with as we're trying to rapidly do the quick fix for local property taxes. And we understand, at this Community Finance Alliance, people understand that it's a problem. But the biggest piece of this is, again, still as we kind of just beat the drum, is this problem did not happen overnight. And so you've got competing bills. We don't even know, some of them don't even know what the ramifications are yet. They've not been fully vetted. And so like my plea to them, to be honest, is really like, it's exhausting for us to keep track of this. It's making our next topic about, budgeting impossible to do. But it's how can we just take a step back and actually figure this problem out? Bring the people, the experts in the room, which is not just treasurers and superintendents. It's tax experts, it's community members, it's people throughout the state to really develop a comprehensive plan to fix the problem. But one of the things that was even brought up at our coffee chat that I think people, and maybe this is because I was so young at the time, but 20 plus years ago, our state income tax was over 7.5%. So the coffers were full of income tax, which drove so much of, I think, public funding. And now it's just, we've seen this progression of decreasing in income taxes. And so we've talked about the allocation of resources. This is where we are. And so we need to take a look at this. I mean, there's this push that's going beyond, not only the push of eliminate property taxes and then what do we do, but this also, the next push is how do we get income tax to zero?
Yeah.
And we look now at our budget and how are we going to do this? Like,
Correct.
it doesn't seem like there's a lot of thought and planning into this, and we are just stuck in the middle of all of it, and it's exhausting.
And I keep talking about that three-legged stool, right? It's sales tax, it's property tax, and it's income tax. And if we want to eliminate property tax, and we're continuing to decrease income tax, that leaves everything to a sales tax. And I know it's not scientific, but it's the rumor out there that if they eliminated property taxes upwards of $22 billion a year, it would take a 15 to 20% sales tax to make up for that on each and every goods and services that we purchase. So I don't think that would be very popular either. So again, I'm with you. I see the need and the want and the desire to make some changes to property taxes in general. But at the same time, there's no silver bullet. It's not going to happen overnight. We do need to make these adjustments. And we as public educators have been adjusting over time. We continue to do more with less, and we continue to meet the needs of our community when sometimes the funding for those needs isn't quite coming at the same rate that they need to be. So it's ongoing, I guess, and keep our eye on the ball. We will be committed to continue to do that no matter how exhausting it is. It's what we do. It's what we get paid for, and we just have to continue to educate our community on that. So in your world, we're keeping our eye on the legislation going on and on and on, but a certain season is rolling upon us already. I mean, we're just now at the end of October, beginning of November, but what's next in your world? which then trickles down into everybody else's world here in the district.
Yeah, so we actually we just met with our administrators and we kind of gave them the heads up that this is coming. And part of the reason why we're moving our budgeting timeline up earlier is because of some of those legislative changes from House Bill 96, the budget bill. And because of how our forecast dates have changed, it'll be moving. The next forecast will be filed in February, and then there will be the next one in August. So truly, it doesn't have to be exact, but in February, we really need to have the budget for next year already basically set.
We just started the second quarter, and you're already talking about budget for next year?
Yeah.
I mean, that's craziness. And some people don't realize as a school system, once we start the school year and we get through the first quarter, unfortunately, all our planning now focuses for the next school year, which is the 26-27. And we should have this year already laid out and planned out. But it is tough as a building administrator, a former building principal, to wrap my head around that. But we have to.
Yep.
If we're going to plan appropriately.
Yeah. So last year, I think it's important for the people listening to the podcast is that we really kind of changed the way we do and look at budgeting. So we went through this whole process last year, I realize that people are not always living in the world of finance, even though it's an important work of what we do. So I created these workbooks that we share with them in Google Sheets, and each of the buildings can really kind of work through the different, whether it's a department or a building budget. We take care of the salaries and benefits portion of it, of course, but they've got to do with maintenance, repairs, supplies, some purchase services, depending on different contracts and different departments. But we've created this workbook for them to kind of fill out to help guide them through the process. So that was step one. We did a lot of that work last year. We'll continue that work this year. It's just that we're kind of moving up the timeline. The good part about it is that a lot of these purchases were just made several months ago. And so I think it's a good refresh to see, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What did we miss? Because there was a couple things people missed because, they did it, in August of the prior year, and then we were budgeting in, April, May of last year. So I think pushing it up will have some actual good things come out of it for the district. But I think overall we're talking about it more. I think we're wanting them to also talk, and we will do it as well, to talk to our support staff, our regular staff, our teaching staff, to tell them how important this is and how the allocation of resources really is in our district. Because again, we talk about it at board meetings, but we got to talk about it here. We got to talk about it with our staff and our meetings and whatnot. So.
Yeah, as a recovering high school principal that I am, it is early. It does seem early, but I would say also thinking about that world, it's a better time to be focusing on that, because as a high school principal, you get into the spring, what used to be the budget season. That's also graduation, awards nights, all kinds of things go on in the spring, and it gets kind of crazy from prom and different senior activities. So moving it earlier, I think, will allow the team to be better focused, and hopefully we'll have a better product in the end. And it was a big learning curve last year. We really pushed into our departments and buildings to understand school finance at a deeper level. And I said it yesterday in a meeting. I said, it's not about reduction, or cut. It's about being efficient and lean and make sure that we're using our resources appropriately and getting the biggest bang for our buck. So it's right. Not the mindset of cut, reduce. It's about how we allocate our resources that our community is so generous with us. So I look forward to it again, and the sooner we get started, probably the better.
Yeah, maybe it'll be their Christmas break project.
Maybe. So let's transition a little bit, because, as a superintendent, I get tired of talking about school finance. I'm just kidding. No offense. But we do a lot of other things in our school district besides finances, but that is the base. Just last night, we had our second annual State of the Schools address at Brecksville Broadview Heights High School, and we had a nice turnout.
We did.
I wish it was more.
It was a little bit more than last year, I think. So that was good. So now it'll build.
A few more. And I keep thinking of ways, like we put it in all our newsletters, we put it on social media, but I'm just trying to figure out a way to maybe get it out in front of everybody and see if we can get even a bigger turnout, because it is a great event. It's an evening that we get to celebrate and brag about the accomplishments of our students and our staff. We go over an update of our strategic plan and where we are with the action steps, which was all awesome. But probably one of the best parts of last night was we do give away 2 Community Champion Awards. And these are individuals and or organizations that have just truly supported what we do here at BBH CSD and our strive to educate, empower, and engage. And one of the recipients of that award last night was the Scusa family. And a lot of people don't know who the Scusa family is. But it's a very generous family that started a foundation a few years ago, and they donate considerable amounts of money to our school district each year to be used in the world of special education. They're able to provide special things like art therapy, music therapy, horseback therapy,
Sensory rooms
throughout the district. So they are able to provide some of the above and beyond that make for a great experience for some of our learners who need some of the most help. And they're very generous with their time, their energy, and their resources. And we were able to recognize them last night. They won't want no fame from this. They do this because it is near and dear to them. But we can't thank the Scusa family enough. We wouldn't be where we are and wouldn't be able to provide some of the resources if it wasn't for them. The second one, who's going to be our guest speaker here shortly, is Kelly Lazar. Kelly Lazar has been the leader of an organization called C.A.P.A, which I'll let her explain when we bring her on. But the State of the Schools is just an opportunity to celebrate these successes and the people that help make Bryceville-Broadview Heights City School District the destination district that it is. It was part of the strategic plan. We are trying to communicate. If someone in our community isn't getting the information from our school district, we are going to try to find a way to get it to them. From coffee chats to the State of the Schools, to the key communicators meetings, to the podcasts, to the newsletters, to the social media. I even had one community member say last night, Craig, it's too much. Like, I get 4 or 5 different newsletters. Well, this individual had a couple children in the district, so they get a newsletter from the intermediate. They get a newsletter from the high school. They get a newsletter from me. So he felt as though it was a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Couldn't we streamline it a little bit? And I kind of have to laugh a little bit because you hear in different communities, oh, the school doesn't communicate enough. We're trying to over-communicate. And if somebody's going to, say, you guys really over-communicate too much, I'm going to take that as a compliment.
Well, I had someone who also was like, when did you advertise for the Community Finance Alliance? And I was like, well, we did it a couple different ways. I think I got the same feedback, and it was, we do communicate in so many different ways. We are looking, though, on ways to streamline that.
Yep.
One of them is some of the software that we're still trying to refine that may be able to help us do that. But this also came up as a strength of ours in the Community Finance Alliance. But one of the things that was brought up, as well as the fact that it is such a strength of ours that we communicate well, was maybe we need to do it the communications need to be smaller or explained at a much lower level just to be quicker. So those are things that will take as feedback, of course. But I think that I don't know how you can over communicate, but because some people also say that we don't communicate enough still.
Right.
So we're doing what we can.
Yeah, it was interesting at that meeting when they said, we want those small bite-sized pieces. And I thought, that's the whole reason we started the podcast. When we started the podcast, we're like, oh, yeah, these could be like 5-10 minutes.
But they're like 45.
They're like 45. So, we're going to have to work on that. Maybe it's just one person behind the mic and not 2 bantering back and forth. But we'll get there. And
yes.
If it's an idea, it's an idea. I mean, even one that hit me last night after talking to a couple of community members, we were talking about a book that's out. And I thought, what if I did a book study with community members? We do book studies all the time internally as an admin team or teachers and things like that. But what if I chose a book and advertise a book study with community members? Books like maybe Anxious Generation is one that's out right now, or other related topics that we could talk about as a community to help our schools get even better. So we'll see. That's going to be something else coming down the road. So with that, why don't we take a quick break here and we get set up and bring our guest in, Kelly Lazar.
I think that'll be a good idea.
Awesome.
All right. Well, welcome back. We are here to welcome our friend who has an exciting adventure to tell us about, which is C.A.P.A. So why don't you start off? Welcome, Kelly, to our podcast and tell us about C.A.P.A.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I was excited when I got the invite.
Whoa. I'm going to stop you there.
Oh, that's not true.
We got to be a little truth teller here, Mrs. Lazar. I think last night after we presented you the Community Champion Award, which you were very upset at us because we completely duped you and you had no idea why you were there. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Martin presented you with that wonderful award. I came up to you and said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow around 1 o'clock? We need a guest. And you were like, oh, no, I'm out. See you later. Bye. And I told Craig even, I said, she's out. She's not going to do it. I'm glad you reconsidered. I'm glad we got you to the table. And we are excited to hear about C.A.P.A. But I first want to hear about Kelly Lazar. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Kelly Lazar, your background, Who are you? I
Oh.
guess for the listeners.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'd say first I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandma.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. 9 grandkids.
Oh my.
I know, right?
Congratulations multiple times.
Right. I'm an independent social worker. I've been working in this field for 25 plus years in the school and community based realm. And yeah, and I was thrilled to get the opportunity to join C.A.P.A in 2006. And now look at 20
You're-
years later.
You're also a beekeeper too.
And I am a beekeeper.
I have some honey on my desk.
Yes, I am a beekeeper. I have 30
it's good.
beehives and lots of beehives, lots of plants. Yeah.
Have you lived in Brecksville Broadview Heights for a while?
I do not live in Brecksville
Oh,
Broadview Heights.
oh, spoiler.
No, I live on the east side.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Cleveland Heights and live in Highland Heights now. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. So you come to Brecksville Broadview Heights 20 some years ago.
Mhm.
And what was the role? What was the idea? What were you hired for? Kind of how did it all evolve?
So it's interesting because I actually forwarded this job description to another person who does live in the community and I worked with at the time. And I said, "Oh, I really think this would be a great job for you." And the more I looked into the job and the job description, actually the night before it was due, I thought, wow, this would really fit me too. So I'm going to throw my hat in the ring.
Did you compete against that friend for the job?
No, it's so interesting because they did say to me about a week and a half later after I had gotten the job,
Okay.
"Oh, I think I'm going to apply for that job." And I was like, yikes. So,
Too late.
so sorry, too late. I applied and I was hired. And it's been a whirlwind since, a lot of change, but I was really drawn to the position because how the history of C.A.P.A
Okay.
and how it was formed. So
And so what is C.A.P.A? What's the name?
Community Awareness and Prevention Association.
And when was it founded here?
And it was founded in 1989,
Okay.
and which is
Longer than I thought because that was announced last night. And I was like, I did not realize it was
Yeah.
1989
1989.
because I was
Where was Craig Yaniglos in 1989?
I was in
Right.
3rd grade.
wow,
Mhm.
wow.
Mm.
Well, founded in 1989 out of a tragedy that had happened in the community, but rather than allow that tragedy to take hold and define the communities and define the district, the city of Brecksville and Broadview Heights came together with the school district and said, okay, what are we going to do? How can we help our kids? How can we protect our children and our families? And they decided, well, what we really need is we need a person, an educator, someone who has a background in prevention and substance use prevention, to come together and to provide support to our children, youth, and families in the school. Obviously, they talked about how do we do this, and it was really brilliant at the time, and actually is the envy of many communities now, is that they realized, look, if we all give a contribution, if this doesn't just fall on the schools, if it doesn't fall on any one entity, but if we all give a contribution, then we can support this position and create sustainability. And that's what they did. I mean, it was brilliant back then, and it continues to be. So that's why I was thrilled to join. I felt that it was a creation of an organization that was well ahead of its time, and I also felt that there were areas that we can improve upon. So.
I think that is the uniqueness of the program, that it's 3 entities. It's the school district, it's the city of Brecksville, and the city of Broadview Heights all coming together. And for a lack of a better term, having skin in the game.
Right.
Right. And as an educator, I got into this position to educate children,
Right.
but so much of my job deals with things outside of education.
Right.
And society factors that come into what we do. And sometimes the schools are looked upon as it's our job to fix it all.
Right.
But organizations like C.A.P.A and partnerships like C.A.P.A help bring those resources to the table to help provide a great environment for our students so they can be successful in school
Right.
and in life.
Right.
So what are some of the things that C.A.P.A does, and what are you busy doing day in and day out? And I know we're going to get to it, but I want to make sure we highlight the wonderful things and opportunities that it gives our students,
Sure.
especially student leadership.
Well, I think that we provide a lot of services. I think that the one thing that's a hallmark of C.A.P.A. is that we are a coalition that is comprised of individuals from many walks of life that live in this community of Brecksville and Broadview Heights. I think that capacity building that took place in the beginning, I think it's so important because we all have different strengths. We all have, as you talked about when forming your group, the difference between the accountants and the finance people. We all come together with different history, and it's so important to have everyone at the table, not only people from the cities and the schools, but parents, educators, law enforcement, people from our businesses, youth, especially, to have them at the table. And I think that that's really one of the hallmarks of C.A.P.A. is that we meet monthly. We are driven by data. We look at trends, and then we try to come up with strategies to help empower our kids and our families to be healthier and safer. You talked a little bit about some of the stuff that we do. It's multifaceted. I think that we provide community-based programming. So we do programming with our Human Services Department to bring intergenerational programming to our kids and our seniors. We actually have an event coming up with the Senior Wellness Day that is on November 7th. We have our middle school kids interact with our senior citizens. It provides a wonderful opportunity for the kids, and at the same time brings in our older adults, because we know that they historically sometimes aren't utilized enough, but also have knowledge and strengths that can benefit our kiddos. We also do school-based programming, and then we do what we call environmental-based programming. And what that is that we partner with our police officers to do compliance checks, tobacco and alcohol compliance checks, to make sure that our community organizations are supporting our kids and our families. In fact, one of the things that came out of our meetings not that long ago was we were concerned about a store that was selling tobacco products to our kiddos, and through that conversation, our local police went and they made sure that they were being safer and that they were not endangering our kiddos.
Right. If I'm correct, that business may have moved out of our cities.
That business moved out.
So that was a success.
It was an absolute success.
What are some of the activities? You spoke earlier about our students interacting with our senior citizens. What are some of the activities they do together, those intergenerational activities you spoke of?
Well, some of the things that they do, in addition to the Senior Wellness Day, we've had our kiddos visit Danbury and Jennings Senior Living Centers. They do play bingo with the older adults. They have gone and done trivia with them, and they just interact. It's really refreshing to see the kids asking questions. We sometimes just provide conversation starters, because we know sometimes it's difficult for older adults to start that conversation with kiddos. I think one of the things that the older adults love is when our kids talk to them about technology and show them, how do you set this up on your phone? What is this app doing? And the older adults love that.
Do they have patience when they're doing that? Because I know with my mom, we struggle sometimes.
Yeah. Honestly, the kids love it.
Do they do good?
They love it. They love the attention that the seniors are providing them, and the seniors obviously get a lot out of it too. So we've really, enjoyed doing that. Some of the other things that we do, and I think really one of the hallmarks of our school-based programming, is that we have several youth-led clubs.
Yes, this is where I think C.A.P.A. makes the biggest difference in our schools.
Absolutely. So we have our Huddle Club at the high school. That's helping us develop dedication, leadership, and enthusiasm.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
I know, right? So we just call it Huddle. And we have our SAD Club, and we also have Huddle Junior, which is a middle school-based club. So our Huddle Club at the high school, what we do with those kiddos is we have 130 plus kids. We train them to be trainers, and then they also have an opportunity to lead. So They go into our middle school 5 times a year. They do programming, classroom-based lessons with our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students on a myriad of topics. They start out with just how to be a friend, and how to have responsibility and character. And then they go into more deeper lessons about alcohol, tobacco, marijuana use, and prescription drug use.
And these kids are like rock stars, even though they're high school going back to middle school or middle school going back to elementary. Anytime our students get those leadership opportunities is only making them better citizens
Yes,
and better people, and then helping our younger bees learn how to be bees.
exactly.
Right. And it's just the culture of the district. Now, we did announce last night as we were presenting you with a Community Champion Award, and I know you've made this well known, but this is like your swan song. This is your final year. You're retiring at the end of the year.
Yes.
So congratulations, number one,
Yeah,
on that.
I'm very excited.
But
We're
as
both jealous.
yes, we're both jealous as both of us are looking at multiple years yet. So we do want to first congratulate you on that, and what a great accomplishment that is for you. But then where does that leave C.A.P.A, and how does C.A.P.A maybe need to evolve, and how would you like to see it continue after you step away?
Well, I think the one thing is that a lot of these organizations, or just community coalitions, community school partnerships, if they are only focused on grants, when the grant goes away, the organization goes away. And we've seen that at other school districts across Cuyahoga County. But our opportunity is different because of our three-legged structure. We can make sure that this organization and the work that it does is sustained. And at the last meeting that we were at, I said, look, we can't rely only on grants. We just can't. We have to make sure that, when we're looking to replace me, and everybody can be replaced, and there's a lot of wonderful people out there who would jump at the opportunity to do this programming, that they're supported, that they know it's not just going to be a 3-year gig, that they're going to be able to have a position. And to do that, we need to make sure that our three legs, the City of Brecksville, the City of Broadview Heights, and the school district, do support the programming and provide that funding that is necessary as we move on. We know what we do works. We know that our programming has contributed to healthy lives and kids making better choices. And we also know that prevention is cost effective, considering what it costs on the other end when you have, kids who are addicted, or kids who are, being risk takers, or crime in a community. I mean, I worked in many other schools and communities that didn't have the richness and the wonderful opportunities that we have here in Brecksville and Broadview Heights. So we have to ensure that.
Correct.
Now, you talked about not being sustainable only through grants.
Right.
So that is how you and I really met when I got
Right.
here.
Yes.
Was because of the administration of the grant,
Right.
because that does involve obviously my office, and I think we fixed it after I got here.
Yes.
But why don't you talk about a little bit about how big that grant was? I don't know if you did grants before that, so feel free to add some of those. But that was, for me, that was the largest grant I had ever worked with.
Right.
And it was a federal grant. You had a federal grant and you had a state grant from
Yes.
ODH. And kind of talk us through that process, because that was really, I think that was an amazing amount of money that the district received to
It was.
some of the programming during that time.
Yeah, when I started in 2006, number one, our data, our survey data that we had in our community-based data, showed that we had some concerns with our kids making risky decisions. And I realized that in order to really effectively address those concerns and to utilize some of the evidence-based programming that the National Registry demonstrated that you should be using, we needed funding. And so with the support of the district, we wrote for a Department of Education grant, a U.S. Department of Education grant, and we were awarded just under $1 million to do that. That enabled us to hire a couple people, but more importantly, it helped us to integrate some of the programming that we still use. to this day. Because a lot of, look at when you're getting ready to do any programming, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Agency, SAMHSA, what they recommend is obviously first you have to have the capacity. You have to have the capacity in order to plan. All right. Then once you get that planning done, then you have to have an implementation process similar to your strategic plan, obviously. And then after that, you implement and then you evaluate. You have to be able to measure, all right, we just did all of this. Is it successful? Then that drives you to plan again or to bring more people to the table if you need them at the table. So we got that grant. That grant led to us receiving another grant from ONDCP, the Office of National Drug Control Policy. That was a 5-year, $1.25 million grant, and we were awarded that again. But what I want to make clear is that supporting an organization with grants is not wise. And a lot of the funding streams that we were fortunate enough to get in the past are dried up. And even the funding from the state and foundation grants, they are getting smaller and smaller. The funding is getting smaller, and who they fund, they're narrowing their scope. So we really can't rely on grants as we move forward. We need to make sure that we have the sustainability. And if a grant is is written, well, it's a bonus, right? It's a bonus, but it can't be thought of as sustaining the organization because we know what happens when those funding sources go away.
It's a lot of work. It's not only writing it, it's then following through with it, then doing all the follow-up on it. So, because sometimes people will approach us about different grants and opportunities that, quite honestly, we do the cost-benefit analysis and it's not there.
Right.
It's not worth the grant.
Right.
A grant of $1.2 million, and that's going to make a dent. That's going to do it. We're going to do all that legwork. So thank you for doing that work. Thank you for getting C.A.P.A off the ground. It is a sustainable program. It is something we need to support as a school district and our communities. And I can't thank you enough, Kelly, for your leadership in that, for what you do for our students, but you also do for your community. And you are truly a community champion.
Right.
You are out there. If somebody tells you no or maybe, you stick with it and you see it through, which is great. But thank you for the many years of service.
Appreciate that.
We congratulate you on retirement, and I know you'll be a friend. You'll be close, and we'll tap you in when we need you from time to time. Craig, anything else to share today before we wrap this episode up?
I don't think so. I mean, how could you go off on a higher note than what we just talked about?
Absolutely.
That's great.
It's great stuff for great kids. Well, next episode, we will have had a board election. So we possibly could have some new board members. So we'll probably be talking about that. I'm sure we're going to talk about school finance because Craig's here, and it's his favorite topic. And, we have a few things up our sleeve for our next couple of guests. So I'm excited to do that. But
I think do we have a list?
We do have a list.
We have a list. People want to be on the podcast.
People actually want, There's a waiting list.
A waiting list.
There's a waiting list.
There's a waiting list.
So,
see how privileged you were to be
I know,
right at
right?
the top of the list?
I love that.
Yeah, you're like number 2, right behind the mayor of Brecksville Broadview Heights. It's one community. It's David Martin.
Right.
So exciting stuff for us. But I'll leave you with that. As I said earlier in the episode, I've been getting some, I won't call it fan mail, but some mail from listeners.
Yep.
And I had an individual, a user named Sudsy, who sent a thing in saying how informative that these have been. He lives in a neighboring school district, and he says he could only wish that his school district would provide the transparent, authentic information that we're providing on a weekly, monthly basis here. So Craig, shout out to you, because he said your treasurer seems like a pretty smart guy.
Oh, well,
I don't know where he got that from.
Thanks.
All right.
So do you know, is the person just really Sudsy, or do you technically know the person?
That's his username. So I don't technically know him. I haven't met him.
Okay.
So maybe I will in the future.
Maybe you will in the future. Okay,
Absolutely.
That is really good feedback. That's awesome.
Awesome.
And I like Sudsy.
Sudsy.
I like
right?
him.
Sounds good.
Him or her, I guess.
Yeah, right? Because he said you're a smart guy. I question that, but that's okay. Well, thanks for joining us. Again, catch us on Spotify and be ready for our next episode coming up after the month of November. Take care.
Awesome.